Hi, family. This is Charlotte, Pastor Caldwell. I want to have a little talk with you. Yeah, about that text right there. So I caught Tabitha live today. Now, I missed the part that was probably most important for me. And I went back and she did post it on YouTube. But I'm going to put the clip or I guess, the address to it in this when I post it. Now, she talked about the eagle and the crow, but it's a poem that someone, a creator, posted, and it has to do with this. Now, Tabitha has a good friend called Mildred, also known as Chat GPT. And if you go Google and look it up, you will see what she's talking about. And she didn't quite understand it either until she started doing her research. I, like Tabitha, I'm going to do my research, but I do it from the sacred text and how I was taught to exegete or go through the hermeneutics of it, the scientific process of exegeting this, so that we will know. Because, see, we can walk around and be wrong as two left shoes in this realm and realize, that one foot is hurting so bad. Maybe I should get a right shoe. But when you walk around spiritually wrong, just dead wrong, that could cost you so much more than this realm is even worth. So let's do this. Let's go into the world before the text, okay? It reads like this. This is starting from Isaiah 40, verse 1. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem. Tell her her sad days are gone and her sins are pardoned. Yes, the Lord has punished her twice over for her sins. Listen, it's the voice of someone shouting, clear the way through the wilderness for the Lord. Make straight a highway through the wasteland for our God. Fill in the valleys and level the mountains and the hills, straighten the curves and smooth out the rough places. Then the glory of the Lord will be revealed. And all people, not some people, not the Indian people, not just the European people, not just the Black people, but all people will see it together. The Lord has spoken. A voice said, shout. And I asked, what should I shout? Shout that people are like grass. Their beauty fades as quickly as the flowers in the field. The grass withers and the flowers fade beneath the breath of the Lord. And so it is with people. The thing is, Isaiah 40, let me stop here and tell you this. Isaiah 40 is one of the texts that theologians will tell you was written when they were in captivity, period. So when you go from Isaiah 1, chapter 1 to chapter 39, when you parlay over into 40, they're in captivity. That means they lost the war. Babylon whooped them up really bad, tore down their temple. And this is what is spoken right in the beginning of that. Give you some context here. This isn't God just talking to the people and they're in the lap of luxury. No, they have got whooped up on really bad because of their bad attitude and their inability to follow what God gave them, which was Torah, law. Rabbi Shapiro, before I read on, Rabbi Shapiro always told us in class that there were those who co-opted their sacred text for their benefit and lined it up with their text. And I'm just telling you what the rabbi said. And he said it over and over. And finally, sometimes professors say stuff just like a parent, and you're like, yeah, okay. But he kept saying it. He wanted someone to hear it. I finally heard it. I got what he was saying. The text was co-opted because this text is 5 to 7,000 years old as China, baby. What we have is canonized text. It's maybe 2,000 years old, probably a little less. So to give, according to the rabbi, to give validity to the newer text, they roped it right in with the elder text to give it foundation. And that's what the rabbi told us over and over again. O Zion, messenger of good news, shout from the mountaintops, shout it louder. O Jerusalem, shout, and do not be afraid. Tell the towns of Judah, your God is coming. Yes, the sovereign Lord is coming in power. God will rule with a powerful arm. See, God brings God's own reward when God comes. See, sometimes the reward we're waiting for is something in this 3D realm and not that unseen realm. Those rewards that come from on high are quite different from what we get here. They just are. God will feed his flock like a shepherd. God will carry the lambs in his arms, hold them close to his heart. God will gently lead the mother sheep and with their young. Now, you know, I'm called to wake the lions, not the sheep. So I'm sure by now God is thinking that y'all should have grown up into something else. But it goes on when you get to 12, it says, who else, this is the good part for me, the good part. Who else has held the oceans in their hands? Who has measured off the heavens just with their fingers? Who else knows the weight of the earth or has weighed the mountains and hills on a scale? I'm sure the people using this text have no clue. And it's just what was revealed as far as what they were using it for. And it is the shaping of consciousness and spiritual awareness. And you wonder why people can't hear truth. They can't even see it. It's been so embedded over generations and generations that they make a post and think it's an innocent post, maybe not even realizing what they're talking about. Let's read on. Has the Lord ever needed anyone's advice? Does God need instruction about what is good? Did someone teach God what is right or show God the path of justice? No, for all the nations of the world are but a drop in the bucket. They are nothing more than dust on scales. God picks up the whole earth as though it was just a grain of sand. So these that are feeling high and lofty and utilizing sacred texts in this way, yeah, one day I'll say, how did that work for you, beloved? Yeah, I know I'm going to get to say it. So as we get to 16, all the wood in Lebanon's forest and all Lebanon's animals would not be enough to make a burnt offering worthy of God. The nations of the world are worth nothing to God. In God's eyes, they count as less than nothing, mere emptiness and froth. Oh, you're the greatest country on earth. We're the wealthiest country. We have the most resources that mean nothing to God. What are we boasting for? Misusing this text. And when I send you what Tabitha had, you will hear this poem and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. To say that one ethnic group is more superior than another, this is ancient text that we're reading. This ain't no okie doke and we playing a little game. To whom can you compare God? What image can you find to resemble God? Can God be compared to an idol formed in a mold, overlaid with gold and decorated with silver? Trying to make sure I can see, guys. Pull my computer down. Or if people are too poor for that, they might at least choose wood that wouldn't decay and a skilled craftsman to carve an image that won't fall down. Haven't you heard? Don't you understand? Are you deaf to the words of God? Are you deaf? The words God gave before the world began. Are you so ignorant? God sits above the circle of the earth. The people below seem like grasshoppers to God. God spreads out the heavens like a curtain and makes his tent from them. Now, this is all before we get here. And remember, they're in captivity. So now they're big upping. The prophets are writing and they putting it down. They big upping the creator because so many people have been like, no, we can do this. But this is what the law, the Torah says. No one was listening until they were in captivity. No one heard. They couldn't see. They could only hear those leaders that were telling them what they wanted to hear, and they would put everything bad off of certain groups of people. Those people got saved, like Jeremiah got whooped up one side and down the other. Jeremiah survived it all, didn't even go into captivity, just marched right on over to Egypt and lived out his life. They hardly get started, barely taking root. When God blows on them and they wither, the wind carries them away like chaff. So we're at 25. What I'm going to do is read a little faster so I can get you guys through this. I don't want to bore you, but this is important because you need to know what this text is being utilized for. And when you add your ashe, your God energy to it, that's the power behind it. I'm going to go back and look at some of my sermons and make sure my ashe wasn't added. I don't think it was, because I've always come at a different angle with this text. But here we go. To whom will you compare God? Who is my equal? Asked the Holy One. Look up into the heavens. Who created all the stars? God brings them out like an army, one after another, calling each by its name because of his great power and incomparable strength. Not a single one is missing. Oh, Jacob, how can you say the Lord does not see your troubles? Oh, Israel, how can you say God ignores your rights? Y'all come with me now. Some of these were the arguments before they went into captivity. Have you ever heard? Have you ever understood? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of all the earth. God never grows weak or weary. The higher heavens, they woke 24/7. They are. No one can measure the depths of God's understanding. God gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. Here, people you think are weak and worthless and just a drag on the system, a drag on this and that. Hear it one more time. God gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. Even, now see, we're in our text now, even youths, the young people, grow tired and weary, and we wonder why they won't come to church. Here you go. You got to read all of this to get all of it, to know where God is coming from and where you need to be going. And young men stumble and fall, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Now, let me push over to the Masoretic text concerning this. I'm going to see if I can make it a little bigger, because what this text is really about is not what we've been seeing. But I'm going to have to read to you from the Jewish perspective. let's venture down the ancient pathway to see if this verse might have some meaning to the people of Isaiah's day that has been lost in history. First, we must examine the word wait, quava, which is the word for making a rope. Y'all come with me. That word, wait on the Lord, is about making a rope, quava. Rope was made in those days, as it is today, by the binding of strands of fabric. Each strand is easily broken on its own, but when bound together very tightly, will not break. So I want to tell you that I'm getting this from Chaim ben Torah, and Chaim means life or living. It's one of my favorite sites. I'll put that down here too, so that you know I'm coming right out of what I know to do. So the Hebrew word for wait, quava, has to do with a rope. Rope was made in those days as they are today. Thus, this waiting upon the Lord carries the idea of binding yourself. Binding. This is about binding yourself to the higher heavens, to the higher good, to the higher thought, to the higher breath. This is about binding. It has nothing to do unless they are also using it to bind their own people and then to bind the minds of the people who just don't know better. Cut. I'm cutting today. You need to cut it. Yeah, y'all know how I go. You need to cut it because this is about binding. Binding yourself to something higher than yourself. When the strands of fabric of rope in ancient times were bound together, oh, I can't see all of it. See if I can see all of it. I might have to open it all the way up, so give me a minute. I'm making sure I get to where I was. So thus, waiting on the Lord carries the idea of binding yourself to God. Unlike today, when strands of rope, a fabric of rope in ancient times were bound together, they tended to come loose on occasion, but had to be rebound. As they were rebounded, the strength of the rope was renewed. Just as when we drift away from the Creator, from the higher heaven, and then return and begin binding ourselves again to the high God by tightening that bind, we become stronger. I'm gonna make this smaller so I can see a little bit. This was about them binding themselves to God so they could have that elevation again. Now, if we go by the eagle and the crow, this is about a people who co-opted an ancient African text to bind themselves to something, to raise themselves up higher, not because God said so. See, this was spoken to the ancient African people. So all of that area that you see Israel going up into the Middle East, if you can get a hold of a map, all of that was Upper Africa. But now that people have come in and tried to cut it up and make it different ways, Egypt doesn't even act like it's in Africa anymore. One of the most sacred continents there is. And people want to play. So this binding ritual we're talking about, that they are carving into the golden age or era, they've been working on this for generations. But let me tell you what I think. I think you got to have the right DNA. Oh, I don't discount my DNA. It goes all the way back to first calls. Don't you discount yours. You cannot step over people. If it were going to be done, surely it would have been done in the Middle Passage. Surely it would have been done 1619. Surely it would have been done in the field. Surely it would have been done by every mama who had their babies ripped away from them. Surely it would have been done every time we were forced to nurse other people's children and did no hurt or harm to them. Surely. I want to read this part to you too. Chaim Ben Torah, really good reading. When you want to get into original thought of the text, because sometimes we rush to pull things this way and to make it what we want to make it, just like the eagle and the crow are making it what they want to make it. I'm dialing it back to original source because original source is in me, because I've been a blueprint, you've been a blueprint, never a copy. This is someone copying ancient text through African languages. And the Hebrew language is a Semitic language. It is ancient African. And you're co-opting a text to do a binding ritual. Yeah. How is that working for you, beloved? You've been binding, I know, over 400 years or longer. See, it's not enough unaliving you can do. God does not accept human sacrifices. There's not enough unaliving. As I was reading Isaiah 40 to you, God said, hey, it's not enough trees in all of a country to even be a burnt offering to me. So what type of offering do you think you're going to make for this binding that you're doing? So far, it hasn't worked, and it will not. Because if it did not come from the breath of the Lord, the one who holds the earth up like it's a little grain of sand, it ain't going nowhere. Oh, sure, you can fuss and kick and cause hurt and harm to people. There's one God called by many, many names. Every tribe and ethnicity have their name for the high God. It's not just one high people. And I know you want to set it up like that. There's only one group of people that is that. No, God said all people. I read it to you. So I want to read this to you about the mounting up on wings like eagles. I got to make it bigger. So we see that when we bind ourselves to God, we will not only renew our strength, we will mount up with wings as eagles. Let me point out that we may not be talking about eagles here. This is Jewish text. We may not be talking about eagles. The word in Hebrew for eagle is nesor, which could mean both eagle or vulture. Come on, family. The word is really more descriptive of a vulture because nesor is in the Semitic root, means to saw or rip apart, to saw or rip apart. That is how a vulture uses its beak to rip apart its food. I have heard old-time carpenters talk about ripping apart a board in reference to sawing a board. In older times, saws were not as sharp as they are today and usually cut a board as though a combination of ripping and sawing. So we tend to shy away from the idea. This is Jewish perspective. This is African wisdom as well. We tend to shy away from the idea of mounting up with wings of vultures, as our culture has a negative view of vultures and a positive view of an eagle. Let me stop right there. Did you catch that word? So now we can translate. So now, do I go in and say we mount up on wings like vultures? Because the word there is more like a vulture, not even an eagle. Yeah, this will make you rethink when you read stuff. Do your homework. And I downloaded ChatGPT today, and I'm going to have to make sure my husband helped me get it working. But begin to do your research. Your spirituality is so important. And you don't need to have any doubt concerning it. I told you that earlier this week. You can have all the faith in the world, but if there's doubt, it tears it all up. This is real truth right here. They're doing a binding ritual and they don't even have the text right. Good luck. Good luck. Because if you're going to do a ritual, you need to at least get it right. And you got to have the right stuff, baby, right stuff. You just do. I cannot go get the Sanskrit and the sacred Filipino and Indian and all these texts and begin to misuse it for my benefit. Because when the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit, the angelic beings and spirit guides spoke into communities, it generally was for the benefit of that community. So how do you take another community's sacred text and use it as a binding ritual for your golden age? Your 7 mountains mandate, your manifest destiny. So now you catch that. It's probably not always translated that way, but now that you understand Nesor, a Semitic root, means to saw or simply to rip apart. So this is how a vulture uses its beak. And that's what this word is more like. It is more descriptive of a vulture. Now, Isaiah may be making reference to the pagan Egyptian god Nekhbet. So that was a pagan religion. According to this pagan religion, I don't take anything as pagan. It was just different forms of worshiping the high God, superiority of faith. There's that faith again. The goddess wore a shin ring, which in hieroglyphs is pictured as a loop of a rope, symbolized eternal protection. Isaiah could have been making a play on words using the quava, which is rendered as weight, but really means the looping and binding of a rope. So it's much more there than what we give out in church, but I'm going to give it to them this week because they need to know. The problem lies in the choice of the root word mount up. So now the priestess Nekhbet wore the white feathers of the white vulture and appeared like she had wings. And they would spread their wings to show that their goddess Nekhbet was their eternal protection. Tradition tells us that the root word for mount up is Allah. Oh, we can't make this stuff up, can we? Which is really a common sense decision, as one reading the original text would almost automatically say the root word is Ya'al. But Ya'al does not really fit the context, so translators move to the alternate Allah, which means to ascend or mount up. Allah, that ancient sacred Semitic word. Our Muslim brothers and sisters, that is their name for the high God. May God add a blessing to the name Allah. It fits, but leaves you wondering just exactly what it means. However, let's go with our first impression that the root word is Ya'al, which means to receive profit or benefit. Those who wait upon the Lord will benefit or profit from the wings of protection. In ancient Egypt, if one were to go to battle on a long journey, they may have been given a feather off the robe of priestess Nekhbet, a very rare, coveted gift, and thus they would have been protected. Y'all catching that? This is going all the way back to ancient Egypt. I know y'all are thinking like Charlotte Pastor Caldwell. I'm having to just keep it real. But what I'm going to do is, let's see what else is written in the commentary. And the symbolism also of feathers are not unique to our Native American culture. You got that too. So God, the creator of all, is the creator of all. So it's not surprising to me that one thing that's here is there also in another culture. But what I want to do is read, if I can go back over to Isaiah 40. God gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. So to me, 29 is just, if not more important than this verse. But you get what I'm saying, This is a cultural ritual of binding, trying to bind yourself to a higher position that maybe you were not given nor worthy of. What other culture is doing that? So if I have to give a description of the eagle and the crow, that story about the crow riding on the back of the eagle until it went so high it couldn't hold on anymore. Let's see how far this goes, because you're not going to be able to hold on. You don't even know the real meaning of the text. Because see, soaring means something else in this text. It means that you have bound yourself to the limitless, the one who is unseen, the high God, not just an animal. You are bound to the high God. And this was given because the people had been so downtrodden after war and being mistreated, and God trying to correct and put them back in alignment with the higher heavens, and they wouldn't do it. No one would do it. The leaders wouldn't do right when right was staring them in the face. Does it sound familiar? But here they are in captivity. For 70 years, they had to stay in captivity in Babylon, according to what God had said to the prophet Jeremiah. It was going to be 70 years. And here they are at the beginning in chapter 40. And God is saying, shout, baby, I need you to shout. Shout to who? These people who thought they were all that in a bag of chips. And God said, well, you just like the grass. Yeah, you're going to wither and fade. So this is my take on that. Well, not necessarily my take, but I wanted to say something about that. When she read the poem, The Eagle and the Crow, which you can Google, I'm not going to read it on here, and that it was linked to the supremacy of a certain ethnicity, I thought, really, they don't even know what this is about. This is a binding ritual, but when it's used in the wrong hands, you know, it's kind of like over in the canonized text. I'm going to put it like this, and I'd have to go find it to tell you exactly where it is. In the canonized text, there was a time when they came and they got them. They said, you know, there's a man, he has been suffering. He has a demon. And they had gone to the preachers and the teachers and the scholars of the day and said, well, can we help this man? They said, no, you need to go get one of the people that used to hang out with Yeshua. You need to go get one of those people. They were like, they ain't got nothing on us. So they go on to this man's house, this man that's suffering with mental illness and everything. And they're saying it's a demon. Well, these rabbis walk in and they're like, now you need to come out of that man and leave him alone and let him be in his right mind. Whose name do you do that in? Well, I do it in the name of the one that they talk about. Baby, that text said that man beat them people up so bad they ran out of his house naked. Because see, if that's not your call, don't do it. So whoever did this it's a binding ritual, but it is meant to bind you to the higher heavens, to the higher things of God. Not just to some system that elevates one group of people while sitting on top of everybody else. And they want to treat us like we're the ones that's hanging on. You're hanging on to this binding that you've done. That's what you're hanging on to, because it's coming loose. Was the fabric not strong enough? It's not going to stand. If you go read all this text, and then I'm going to put the Chaim in here as well, the Chaim Ben Torah, so that you can go to that page and read all of the commentary and get an understanding of where Charlotte Pastor Caldwell is coming from. So what I saw earlier, but you will see if you go to Tabitha's link and you go to the link of Chaim, and what I've seen now, just putting what God has called me to do, putting my mind to it and studying and looking at the Hebrew words. Indeed, this text means something quite different from what we've been taught. It just does. Because see, how strong are you going to be if you're holding on to God and God is holding on to you? See, some people are holding on to a form of God, the illusion of God, and really don't have a hold of anything but an illusion and bad teaching. I'm going to stop right there because this is getting rather long. This is Charlotte Pastor Caldwell, pastor of 12 years, student of the sacred text for well over 20. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and or like if you would and subscribe. I will see you next time.